Hello, here we are. It's another episode. I'm so excited. I have a long term friend and colleague of mine joining us, Dean Mercado. Dean, how are you going today?
I'm doing fantastically. Thank you very much. Awesome.
So good. Yeah, wonderful. And I have my co host, Corey Sebest. How are you doing, Corey?
Always a pleasure to be back. I'm very happy to have such beautiful people around me for a lovely
Mm,
conversation. So
yeah.
let's kick it off.
Yeah, let's go. Dean, thank you. I want to share with the audience. I've known you for, I was trying to work it out this morning. Is it 6 years? It feels,
Somewhere,
could be.
yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, we met at a conference over in the US, I think, and obviously from your accent, you are from there. So that leads into my first question. I'm going to ask you the questions that I ask all my guests. So, can you tell us where you are in the world, who you serve, and then tell us how you serve them?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I am from, if you haven't been able to tell, for those of you listening, I'm from Long Island, New York. There is a little bit of an accent, although I've worked years and years and years to try and simmer that down a little bit. But there's something about a New York accent that just does not leave. It doesn't go away. So I'm off on the Long Island side, which is a little island that sticks out of the side of New York. So here on the island, we're surrounded by beaches. It's a fantastic place when they keep it up. When they keep the place going well, it's a wonderful place to be. We a hop, skip, and a jump from anything you could ever want. So I'm a spoiled New Yorker. What can I say in that aspect? But like anywhere else, it has its warts. It has its great things, but it has its warts. So outside of that, been here my whole life. I've 54 at this point in my life. I've been here since the beginning. My business is operated out of a place called Hop Hog, New York, and you'll notice a lot of places in on Long Island in particular tend to have like Native American names to the cities, and Hop Hog is one of those. And so we've been in operation for 17, 18 years. I think we're in our 18th year at this point in time. So, yeah, I'm kind of a dinosaur, I guess, when it comes to small business here on Long Island or in New York in particular, and in our industry in particular. Uh, for the most part, and we'll get into the industry and stuff like that. But the industry wasn't an industry when I started, so I guess you can consider me a little bit of a pioneer in that aspect. Stuck my neck out when it was a little scary, but sensed something was there. So going for that. Now, in terms of the second question, I believe you have is was more along the lines of what we do and then who we serve. Is that correct? Is that accurate? So I currently own and operate two different companies, and it wasn't always that way. The one company is Online Marketing Muscle, and that company in particular is a sales and marketing automation agency. If you need to put a technical name on it, I never was one to believe in names like that. Uh, we solve our clients' issues. We help them get from where they are to where they want to be, and that typically is in the sales, marketing, coaching strategy vein. Now, my second company is the Dean Mercado company, and that company spawned out of Marketing Muscle. What ended up happening, and this is interesting. Early on, I started to get a lot of signs and a lot of signals that our clients wanted more. They wanted something different. They wanted a little bit more of stop telling me what I need to do, and can you just hold my hand and walk me there instead? So they were looking for a little bit more of a deeper dive coaching, more than really what Online Marketing Muscle was geared up to do. We did strategy, yes, like most marketing type companies would do, but not to the level of coaching that was being asked of me. So very early on, we started seeing the trend as people were starting to realize they wanted more, they needed more in order to be able to not just know that there's a gold or a diamond mine out there somewhere, but where is it exactly? And can you walk me into it? And then when we're in there, can you show me how to mine those diamonds? Right. So out of that came the Dean Mercado company, which is the coaching side of the business. Um, I have no problem saying that's my favorite side. Anytime you get to connect with another growth-minded entrepreneur, helping them realize their dream, what they want out of their life. And typically it goes way deeper than business. Uh, we're humans. We're meant to experience human things. And that always goes way beyond, well, how much revenue did you make this month? Or, did we meet our profit goal this month? So a lot of my clients started to see that. So there's, in this level of coaching, there's an element of everything, right? And it pulls from every aspect of my being to be able to deliver on that, from every experience I've had, and from every little nook and cranny that I've learned from everybody that I've had the fortunate ability to be around and to learn from along the way. So with Dean Mercado Company kind of running parallel to Online Marketing Muscle, but yes and no. One goes deeper into the more human side, and one just goes after getting the results. As we always say, one of the companies is about teaching someone how to fish. That's the coaching side. The other one is about getting the fish for them, doing the fish for them. So doing the actual fishing. So it handles both sides. So depending on where the entrepreneur is, they would go to one of those companies. They'd gravitate naturally to one of those two companies. And fortunately for me, they are wonderful lead magnets for one another. People who come to me for coaching typically end up hiring us for our marketing side of things. People who come to our marketing side tend to realize at some point they need and want more, and they look to the coaching side. So yes, that's been a differentiator of ours since day one, and it's really, really been a wonderful ride for me personally, as well as for everybody I've had the fortunate ability to serve. So if I could drill deeper into who they are, these are growth-minded entrepreneurs. That's what they are. We serve certain verticals very heavily, but really when you look at it, and you may resonate with this, it's always been about that top 10% that were just wired a little bit differently. They were looking for something more than just their business. And that's what resonated with me, because that's what I was all about. I didn't want a life that just revolved around me showing up for work, delivering, and then going home, sitting in front of the television all night, and the typical routine that everybody goes through in their day. That was not for me. Never has been, never will be. So I've been lucky enough to be able to create something that fit better for myself, and I seem to be attracting the people who have that same itch that I have. So that's a wonderful thing. I'm grateful for that, to know that there's more like me. I'm not just some anomaly or some weird thing going on in my head. Most of us as entrepreneurs usually know there's more out there, and we want it. We want a part. So that's kind of what we go after. We're looking for that top 10%. And I judge myself a very good, I guess, judge or gauge of character. I know what I'm looking for, and I can usually see it in their eyes long before they even realize they have it. I got asked that question by a prospect yesterday. How can you tell the difference between this kind of an entrepreneur and the small business owner, or and I said, I could see it a mile away. I see it, I smell it. It's a mile away. It's so clear to me because my eyes are trained for it now, that I know what I'm looking for, because it starts with almost a reflection in the mirror, where I feel like I'm looking at myself, whether it's looking at myself now or looking at myself 30 years ago. It's that reflection. It's that desire, that enthusiasm, that passion for humanity, that they just want something bigger. This can't be all there is, right? And that's how I can tell who I work with. And I've been known to, if it's not a fit, I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, thank you, but no thank you. I'd rather not take your money. It's not worth it to me. The day is only so long. And it's, as we progress in our years, life is short. I choose to spend it with the people who really want to spend it with me. They love where I'm coming from. They love what I do. They love how I approach it. We're able to have dynamic conversation. Those stimulating conversations move you, where it's not like you leave the room and that conversation is over with. It stays with you because it's so good. It's so powerful. That's what I wish for every entrepreneur. I wish they could all find that. And I figure I've got a few more decades of this. So it's only going to get better from here. Because as you get clearer in what you want, it's so much easier to get it. Right? And you start to get clearer on what's important and what's not. Being a dad, I've got my priorities. Being a husband, I've got my priorities. I know where my time is best spent. So I make sure that I maximize my time for the things that really matter to me. And I do just enough of the other things to things that really matter to me. So, I remember the day, and both of you may register with this also. There was a day where it was all about, well, how much money did we make this year? And now I look at it and I'm like, who cares? Who really cares? Does it really matter? Who do I need to impress at this point in my life? It really doesn't matter. What matters is, am I making what my family needs for us to live the lifestyle that we choose? Isn't that what it's about? But it's been so grilled into us for so many years, right? Am I right? It's crazy when you think about it. And it's part of that is an immaturity. It's the youth, where it's like you think that that's what you're supposed to do. I have to do it this way or else I failed. It doesn't count unless I make this many $1 million. Who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? I don't need to see pictures of your fancy cars on Facebook. I really don't care. Are you happy? Are you happy? Is life everything that you dreamed it would be and more? If it is, great. Now I want to listen to you. Now I want to hear what you have to say. If it's not, what are you doing to change that? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to make it right? Right? So, pretty crazy, right? Am I nuts? Or is this,
No,
or am I onto something here?
Dean, I'm listening to you and I'm going, now I know why we connected and resonated
Oh,
6
absolutely.
years ago.
I knew it immediately.
That's right. And I'm so glad that we connected again. And I invited you onto this conversation because of so many things that you said then. And we'll tap into them. And you mentioned being a dad, being family, and having priorities,
Yes.
and also doing the things that are meaningful to you. So my last kind of formal intro question is, well, what do you like to do in your spare time when you're not
Sure.
running the two businesses?
Oh, I'm happy to answer that. Foremost is family. That's the first and foremost, most important thing in my world. Friends are right behind that. I still hang out with the same group of friends that I went to high school with and junior high school with. And there's a lot of us. And it's amazing when I tell people that, oh yeah, about 50 of us just got together this weekend just to hang out. And this happens all the time. This is not something, well, we'll get together once every other year. No, this is all the time for us. So I look at that and I'm like, wow, how grateful am I for that? So spending time with those friends, spending time with my family. I'm not only a husband and a dad, but I'm a homeschooling dad. So being in that position to be able to educate my children in the way that I see fit is one of the most powerful and important things I could have ever done in my life, bar nothing. There's nothing that trumps that in my world. Outside of my family and my friends, much like you, Aveline, I play music. I'm a drummer. Whenever I get an opportunity to hop on my drums and play and make music, I am a happy guy. And whenever my mood needs an adjustment or whatever I do, I jump on the drums and I let it out. Just release. I get off the drum set and you forget about whatever was bothering you before. It really doesn't matter. It's just been my antidote for the craziness that goes on in the world these days. So anytime I could spend time around love, or if I could spend time around playing music, which is something I also love very dearly, That's what I like to do in my spare time. Being on the island, yes, I'd like to say I'd like to get outside a lot more. Uh, Easier said than done when you're doing this all the time. We're all juggling how many different things every time, all day long, every day. So whenever possible, yes, there's nothing like putting your feet in the sand, right? As I mentioned, Long Island, we're surrounded with beaches. We're very lucky. Um, so from that aspect, and just enjoying the culture that New York brings. You name it, we have it. We have everything. We have every culture here, and we have it big. It's not even like we've got a little bit of that over here. No, we got everything big, where you can go to certain sections of and you feel like you're in another country. It's really that way. And it's extraordinary because it's just, an hour or two drive each way and you're in a different place. So it's from that aspect, I'm grateful. But you pay for it. You want it, you pay for it. And I don't enjoy making our government any richer than they are. But, it is what it is. But that's what I spend most of my time doing. The homeschooling thing is really taking a big piece of my personal time. And I give it gladly because when I see the difference between where my kids are now and where they were 3.5 years ago when I pulled them out of the public school system, I wouldn't and couldn't trade it for anything. There's nothing anybody could tell me that would tell me that the public school system would do a better job than what we've done with our kids. And I'm watching my kids now, who are 13 and 15 at the time of this recording, really come into their own and become people. It's not like you just have these little kids walking around your house. Now I have adults walk around my house. They're big people, getting bigger every day, starting to get their own ideas. They're starting to think for themselves, which is not necessarily not to really bash the school system, but our public school system here is bad. It's bad. And that's a really unfortunate truth. And I hope that every parent in this area could have the fortunate ability and the wherewithal to be able to do what I've done. But that doesn't happen unless I create the businesses I've created and create the lifestyle and prioritize what matters and what doesn't. When my wife, Andrea, who was also my business partner, when we decided to pull our kids out, it really came down to, okay, are you comfortable with letting go of some of the income, letting go of the money that we're used to having in order to take this on and educate our kids? Because if I'm spending hours a day doing that, I'm not spending hours a day serving clients. It changes things for you. But again, there's no amount of money I could trade for that when you start to see the result. And that hits you right here. Makes you realize that your head's screwed on right. And I don't fault anybody for their choices, but I know for me, that was the right choice and really the only choice for me personally. Make sense?
Yes.
You still think I'm sane?
Well, Corey's, yeah, there we go.
I mean,
And
go.
look, I didn't know about the homeschooling thing, and yeah, I pulled my kids out over 12 months ago, and I feel exactly the same.
Yay! All right.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I love hearing what you've said 3.5 years on, and my boys are 12, yours, 13, 15. So it's
Yes.
a similar time frame as to when you pulled yours out. So it's really interesting, and
Yes.
it's extremely empowering. And like you said, it's a choice, and it's like what brings me the most meaning, what's most important to me, and it's not about the money. It should never be about the money.
Correct.
Yeah,
And that's a fallacy that a lot of entrepreneurs fall victim to, in my opinion. I'm thrilled for you. I'm so glad you have the wherewithal and the ability to do it also. Again, it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody's willing to do it. But if you can, anybody listening, consider it. And I've offered myself and anybody, if they need to talk to somebody who's doing it, talk to me. I have no problem speaking about what it's really like. It's not easy. It requires you to learn. It requires you to grow in ways maybe that you haven't thought about growing in a long time. But again, it's like, if we're able to, as a parent, think about it, if we could take any pain away from our child, don't we want to do that? I watch the junk that goes on in the school system around here, and I am so grateful that my kids do not have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then everybody says, well, then what happens? They're not going to make any friends. They're never going to have this. Baloney. That's all fallacy. It is what you make of it. There are plenty of kids everywhere. My kids still know friends from the public school system, and they meet new friends. We do other things. And I have a lot of friends. So my friends have kids, and and their kids now have kids. And so you could socialize your kids in 1,000,001 different ways. It's just, you have to take ownership of what's happening in their lives. I'm sorry to say that, parents out there. Yes, it does require that. It requires us to step up to the plate and say, you know what? My kids deserve more. Before my wife had kids, that was one of the things we swore to each other, that it was like, if we're going to have kids, I am raising them. We're going to raise them. I am not going to push my kid off on some daycare or have somebody else watch and raise my children. I grew up in a household. I have 4 brothers, so there were 5 of us. My dad had to work like crazy to try and put food on the table for 5 boys. Think about that. 5 boys eat a lot of food. 5 boys are always in fights and starting trouble and getting in this and getting into that. So my dad worked a lot of hours, so didn't see him much. So before I had kids, it was one of those conversations that it's like, if we're going to have kids, that's not going to happen. Either we're going to have kids and we raise them ourselves, or we don't have kids. That's where we came from. And thankfully, I was fortunate enough to have a wife who agreed with me on that one. And for her, it's also not about money. We know that we're not ridiculous to think that you don't need money at all. I live in New York. You need a lot of money to live in New York. It's ridiculous. And I ask myself that question all the time. What the heck am I still doing here? But if I didn't have so much friends here physically in New York that I get together with physically face to face regularly, I wouldn't be here. I'd be somewhere else, creating a new experience, enjoying somewhere else. But the lure of all the friends and the face to face that goes on here in New York, very powerful. Very powerful. It's a magnet.
And you obviously are a human person, as in human-centric. And like you said,
yes,
it's so important
definitely
to have those,
it's critical.
those connections. Yeah.
Critical. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll go down that rabbit hole a little bit more in a little bit today, because it defines and dictates everything that's going on in my businesses right now. Everything is shifting for us right now, which is fantastic.
Wow.
And a lot of that comes with just, number one, maturity. Comes with getting clear, getting focused, not caring what anybody thinks anymore. Realizing that anything's possible. It truly is. If you do the right things at the right time for the right people and with the right people, anything can happen, right? Hence this conversation. Who would have thought it 6 years ago, right? But whether you realize it or not, I saw it in your eyes 6 years ago. I saw it. I'm telling you, I saw it. That's why we maintain contact over these years. That's who I surround myself with. And Corey, now you're in that list too. Now I know you. Now I know where you are. There's something about it. It's such an attractive thing. When you see it in someone's eyes, it's a magnet. It draws you. It's in. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know it's there. That's what you want.
Yeah.
So I heard your last podcast, not the last one, but the 100 episode. Fantastic. I loved it. And big dreams, big thoughts. Go for it. In my mind, you're spot on where, it sounds like we're very much in sync with where we're going and how we're going. That's exciting even more for me, especially when you consider we are on the complete opposite side of the planet, but yet we're having similar thought and similar
Mm.
activity. It's
Yeah.
incredible how
Yeah.
far apart, but how close together.
Hmm.
Amazing. I
It
love
is
that stuff.
amazing. Me too. Me too. And I was saying it to someone, I think, was it in Paris yesterday? And there was a guy in Canada as well. Similar
Mhm.
thing. It's like we can be in totally different spots, parts of the world,
Right.
and we're on these similar journeys, and we're brought together, and we have these connections of magic, and we realize, wow, we've got these similar experiences and thoughts and outcomes, and we're in the path. For me, it's very new, and there's a
Right.
bunch of us that are running. Someone said yesterday she likened it to a bunch of us are running, some are walking, some are really slow, and some others are being dragged, kicking and screaming.
Right.
So I see that we are the people that are running. We're heading. We know what we're talking about. We're creating a new future.
Right. Absolutely. And not to knock my fellow Americans, but we're very slow to the game. We are.
Mm.
We're so full of ourselves, and that has to stop. We're so like self-contained, where many are starting to realize there's a much bigger world out there, and we're foolish to think um, that we're the be-all, end-all. And it's a unfortunate mentality that many hold here, and I hate to say it. I'm first generation here. Mother was born in Italy. My father was born in Puerto Rico. So maybe I think a little differently because of that. However, many Americans are finally starting to wake up and starting to see the world a little bit differently than they did. And technology is a big play in that, no doubt, right? But I also am grateful, as crazy as that sounds, for all this craziness that's gone on in the last few years, because it's really woken a lot of Americans up and made them realize that we have to think differently, we have to behave differently, we have to carry ourselves differently, we have to approach life in this world differently than we have before, and realizing that the rest of the world aren't demons. We have enough demons right here in America. Whew, boy, do we have our share of them. And that's really become evident the last couple of years. Um, and I'm not trying to go all crazy and political and all of that stuff, but it's a little nutty here right now. Uh, and I'm grateful though to be from New York, because it is the melting pot. It is the melting pot for everywhere. We have every race, color, religion, creed, you name it, we've got it, as I mentioned earlier. And that humbles us a little bit, because it's not just about one specific type of person, that we're so in our own little box that we don't get to see everything. In New York, we get to see everything, so it's a little different. But as you look around the country, it's not so much like that. It could be a little bit like, you know, they're in their little wrapped up in their own little world, and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm to shake you out of that a little bit, wake up a little bit, look around you. There's a lot going on. You know, check it out, learn from it, learn from their experiences. America is a very young country. We sometimes forget that. Especially when you compare us to European countries, we're very so. We're making mistakes maybe some European countries might have made 150 years ago, 250 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Some of them. And it's fun because I get to teach history to my children, which forces me to relook at history. Which makes me look at it and say, wow, were we lied to in our history books growing up? Oh my goodness. The history books here in America were bad, very bad. You know, as they say, history gets written or rewritten by the victor. So whoever wins gets to write history or rewrite history. So America's been writing a weird slant on history that maybe isn't so true. So
Mm.
not meaning to
Mm.
bash America too much, but it is what it is. I am grateful for it. However, we do as a country need to wake up and
Mm.
continue to wake up and look around and learn from our brethren all around the world. We've gotten lazy, we've gotten fat, and we've gotten stupid. And I hate to say that, not only in our entrepreneurship, but in everyday life. How many times we go on like a Facebook and a YouTube or something like that, and we see somebody walking around New York City with a microphone interviewing kids, in Manhattan, and asking them very simple questions. Like, how many moons are there around the earth? And I just saw one before, and this person said 12. And I'm like, oh my, are you kidding me? This is what we're dealing with from the public school system here. That was a New York person who was probably just out of high school. They looked about 18, 19, maybe 20 years old. I'm like, are you serious? Now, I see that, and it's heartbreaking to me, but it's also confirmation to me that I'm doing the right thing. And I'm, in all the areas of my life. And that's why, as I throw it out there again, I'll speak to anyone who's considering homeschooling their children, taking on a different approach to what we're seeing there. Because if we can't entrust our public school systems to teach our children how many moons there are around the earth, we've got issues. So, yeah, and I think right now we're probably, last I checked, we were like 30th or 40th or 50th. I don't know where we were as far as ranking in terms of our education system around the planet. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
There are what used to be considered third world nations that are doing better than we are.
You guys
And
are
so I
further
question,
down.
right.
Yeah.
So I
You
question,
guys are further down.
yeah, we probably are. And I look at that and I'm like, no, that can't happen. But then I look at the school teachers that we're employing these days, and I'm like, oh, well, I know why it's happening. They're so busy with their own philosophy and their own weird moral compasses that they've lost sight of what they should be doing with the children in the classroom. We've worked very hard to pull out any kind of value, any kind of moral. Those have all been pulled out of our school system and replaced with crazy stuff. Crazy. I mean, I can, and I really don't even want to get into it too deep. But just go on YouTube and look. Go on some social media and look. This is all happening all around me. And I look at my friends and I'm saying, when would now be the right time to take a stance and do something? Stop watching these crazy news channels that are all lying to you. Look. Open your eyes, I say the same to entrepreneurs. Stop listening to the markets are up, the markets are down. The markets are manipulated. Come on, they're all fake. It's all a bunch of garbage. What's your life really? What's your life like? You could see, is your life better or is your life worse? What do you want to create? You're in control of your life. What do you want to do with it? So that's why I love the coaching side. That's why I love working with entrepreneurs on that level. And that's part of the contingency. If they want to work with me, they have to be willing to have conversation that sometimes stings a little bit. Who wants to hear that the country stinks right now? Nobody wants to hear that. Who wants to hear that our education system is gone? It's horrible. Who wants to hear that maybe they're focused on the wrong things? Who knows? But,
What I appreciate about you, Dean, is you're very brave.
Thank
And
you.
I know that you probably don't see it as that because it's just who you are. And you're not afraid to just call a spade a spade.
Right.
You're looking at what's going on. You're saying, well, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is not good. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
do something about it.
Absolutely.
And I love that you speak about it too.
Sure.
And whilst you've been talking about the education system, and this is a business podcast, this is all related.
It is. Totally is.
These topics
Absolutely.
are not, individual separate topics here. They're all impacting our world, and it's coming from the system. And if we talk
Yes.
about the system in business as well, there are things in that system that are broken as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that this is what you've seen. You've been in your business for 18 years, you said.
Yeah, about
So
that. Yeah.
you've you've seen a lot of changes,
I've seen it
and
all at this
you've
point.
seen it all. Yeah. So tell me, what's been along that journey? What's been, I guess, some pivotal things that you've seen or experienced, or that has happened to you that has helped shape who you are today in your business?
Sure. Um, it really does tie into exactly what you alluded to and what you said. The personal life side. My business side is affected so heavily by my personal side. Becoming a dad was a huge pivot point for me because it took me out of the selfishness and brought me more into selflessness. It changed my perspective of everything. And that was not easy. I was a selfish person just like everybody else, especially my fellow New Yorkers. We're very selfish. You know, we like what we like. But really, when it came down to that, was a huge pivot point because at that time, before I had kids, my wife was also, even though she was involved in the business, she still was working in a large law firm out of Manhattan, New York, a top 4 law firm in the world, making very good money. So it was like, all right, if we're going to have kids, we got to pull you out of that so that we can have kids. And then you're going to come and work in the business. So that was a huge pivot point for us because financially we had to shift a lot of things, but it was mostly a mindset shift. And it was about many, many iterations of revisiting. Who are we? What do we want? What do we want to create? Why do we want that? And being okay with the fact that what we wanted 20 years ago is not the same thing that we want today. And that's okay. What we wanted 10 years ago is not the same thing I want today. And that's all right. And not making myself wrong for changing my mind on what matters to us now. See, when I look at what matters now, what matters right now are my kids and developing them into the best adults that they could become, giving them everything I wish I had. And that doesn't mean financial things, spoiling them and buying them things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the love. I'm talking about the education. I'm talking about the drive. I'm talking about modeling for them, letting them see. I'm very transparent with my kids. I tell them everything. And most people would say, you really would say that to them? And hey, they're entering into a crazy world. They have to know this stuff. If they don't hear it from me, who do I want them to hear it from? Right? I'd rather they hear it from me. I'd rather them see how I navigate that so that they can take that and use that and say, okay, they could either do it exactly like how I did it or add their own wisdom to it and create their own way through their own path. And that's okay. So through my life, there's been many pivots. When it was, I don't know if you remember when we talked years ago, I came out of big corporate America. I played there for a dozen years. I flew around the world a bit. I worked on multi-million-dollar projects. I did all of that crazy stuff. And I thought I was hot stuff, right? Only to realize I was miserable because I was an entrepreneur and I just wouldn't face it. I was making the companies I worked for a fortune. But as long as I was living out of a suitcase somewhere, I couldn't start a family. I couldn't get married. I'm not going to be working out of country for 3 months at a time and then have my kids being raised somewhere over here without me. So getting out of corporate America was the first big shift, which was everybody thought I was crazy. I was making a very comfortable 6-figure salary for the time that was wonderful, you know. And I got bold and I left that to go from that salary to zero, right? But I had a fiance or somebody who was going to become my wife who was making decent money. So it was about looking and saying, okay, if we're moving forward, I'm going to take this move because if I don't take the move now and make the shift now, I'll never get out of that trap. I'll never get out of the trappings of their systems. I didn't want their systems. I was miserable in it. I made them a lot of money. I made them very happy, but it didn't make me happy. So I made that crazy move, and I got my rear end kicked all over the place for several years after doing that. That was the you think you know more than you really do phase of my life, where I thought I knew everything. I thought I could do it all, I have broad shoulders. I could handle it, whatever it is. I'm a tough guy. Yeah, right. I didn't know what I know. It really is that simple. I had no idea what I was stepping into. I was an entrepreneur my whole life. I was the kid who was a young kid mowing everybody's lawns, washing everybody's cars, shoveling everybody's snow. So I always had the entrepreneur in me, but I really didn't know what it was like to run a real business, to run a business that could it someday operate without me. So getting my rear end kicked, it wasn't until I got some coaching, and I got some great coaching. And we had to make some investments in ourselves and spend money we didn't have. But I knew I needed to do it because I knew something was missing. No matter how much education I already had, I got my master's degree. My college education did nothing towards setting me up for what I do today. I'm sorry to say that. I've got an MBA. I've got a 4-year degree in computer science. So what? It's great. Yeah, it looks fancy. Do you see it hanging on my wall? No, you do not. It's not hanging there because it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when it comes down to, can I feed my family or not feed my family? Can I live a life that makes sense to me? Can I create a world that I love being in? And I love the people that I'm in it with. Those degrees mean nothing. So it took me stepping away from that and unlearning. I had to unwire myself a lot, and it took years. And I still find that to this day, I'm still unwiring. And it's so hard to do. And it's so quick that you snap right back to the old ways because it was taught to me when I was a kid. So that's the way. Oh, you gotta, you wake up every day, you gotta go to school, get your education, get your college, go get a great job, and work for the man. No, it's not for everybody. So those first couple of years, I did a lot of unlearning and it wasn't until I got some coaching that it was like, okay, it's not me. I get it now. I was starting to see what's wrong with this picture. And I started to understand a little clearer what I had to let go of, what programming I had to let go of, what thought processes I had to let go of, what people I had to let go of. Because I was surrounded with people too who were holding me in that. They didn't want to see me change. They wanted me to stay there. Stay there. Stay with us. It's fun down here. Where you going? Don't go there. It's dark up there. What are you going there for? That's the way it was. It's crazy, right? But that's what we were dealing with. And fortunately, my wife was as nutty as I was. She was a little more scared, but she was willing to allow me to do what I knew I needed to do in my gut and in my heart. I needed to take the chance. And so we took the leap. We took the chance. We struggled for several years. And then children started coming into the conversation. And that was what lit the fire, where it's like, okay, push comes to shove. No more time to keep learning now. Now we need to make it happen. Let's go get it. So again, that was a major pivot point, was the children, right? And then a lot of it was after the children were born, there was another major pivot point where it was like, okay, now we've got to raise them. It's like, okay, we had them. That's great. They're there. But now we have to actually raise these two things running around the house. And they're getting bigger. And they need attention. And they need to learn things. And they want to eat. Right? And they got diapers that need to be changed. Right? So being able to be an entrepreneur and having the luxury of being able to have that home office, being able to tend to my children and still be able to go out there and maintain a client base. It also dictated the type of work I chose. I found myself doing more and more and more of the coaching side. my clients coming from more and more all around, everywhere, all around the country, some from around the world, because it fit more into where my lifestyle was going. And in all honesty, it fits me more now to this day. It still does. And it excites me more because I like to talk to people from other places. Because I feel in my heart, I learn as much from everybody I encounter as they learn from me. And I love that. You know, that drives me because it sits in one of my core values, right? My personal core values: to love, to learn, to create. Those are my personal core values: to love, to create, to learn, right? And in that order, love comes first, right? Creating, and then learning, right? Now, those are not the same core values as my companies. They hang on the wall. You might see one, a little picture of one that's our core values up there on the wall for Online Marketing Muscle. They're similar because they came from me ultimately. But at the end of the day, it's about loving, creating, and learning. And so as my life progressed, I got out of corporate America. I got my rear end kicked early on. We rebranded, came out with Online Marketing Muscle as a rebrand. And it gave us new life. It breathed fresh, that breath of fresh air came into the company. I got coaching. I got beat up big time with the coaching. I started to realize, and then what that really keyed me in on was how many other entrepreneurs were experiencing the same thing I was, and can I help them? I didn't want to see, I could help it. I didn't want to see others go through what I was going through. It was painful. And I was a pretty smart guy, you know, and it was that painful. It was ridiculously painful, you know, so much so there were many periods where it's like, do I just go back to the system and go get a job? And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find my way there. I look at it, it made me cringe. I just couldn't find it. And I was like, no, you know, why should I go out there and go do it for someone else? Why not work a little smarter here and do it for myself? Why go do it for someone else? Oh, well, you get that paycheck every single week or every other week. I can get that paycheck and more now. It's like, so part of the frame shift that's gone on in my 54-year-old brain, I could work one day and make more money in that one day than I could have made in a month in corporate America. It's just a matter of what I'm choosing to do with my day. You know what I mean? I could hold 4 events a year and I could make enough money in those 4 events to live the life I want with my kids and my wife. It's a matter of choice, and there always is a choice. It's, you know, if we allow ourselves to be framed in and boxed in by someone else's choice for us, of course it's going to limit us. But that's where the 54-year-old mind has shifted to, where it's about looking at life a little bit differently and saying, what do I want? Do I need to work, you know, an 8-hour shift every single day? Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. It is about creating. I do just enough work to create the lifestyle I want. No more. Why should I? I'd rather not take on an extra client if I can't give them my best. It makes no sense to me. Now, 10 years ago, different story. Give me more, give me more, give me more. Bring on the clients, you know. I'll take it. Now I'm like, you know what? No. But I'll tell you what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to turn you on to somebody who might be a good fit for you, that you can go work with them if they have the bandwidth to work with you. And that's kind of why my coaching side of the business fits better now. Agency type work, you know that, Aveline. The agency type work, it's great, but people have a certain stigma and idea of what that's supposed to be, and they put you in a box immediately of what you're supposed to do. And no, I'm sorry. I'm a New Yorker. We're very stubborn. We don't play that game. I do things the way I want to, how I want, when I want. And you know what's kind of sucks, but it's funny in a way. Now, Corey, I don't know if you have children or not. I know you do. Oh, you do? So as my kids are getting a little older, my daughter being 15 now, I see a little bit of that stubbornness in her, and it drives you nuts. He's just like, you're not supposed to think like that. But I see it myself in her that way. And I don't want to stop her from being like that because I know how important it is to think for yourself, to be willing to put your neck out there a little bit and say, you know what? No. There's more to life. I want more. I'm going to have more. I'm going to do whatever it takes to create it. I'm going to surround myself with people who make it easier for that to happen. People who inspire me. People who love me. And everybody else, next, please step out of the way. I'm sorry. Life's too short. It is at this point. You know, I've done my share of trying to make everybody like me. Now I know and I'm clear. Not everybody's going to like me. But the ones who do love me. And that's okay. You know, that's good. And I don't make anybody wrong for how they feel. It's their choice. But again, that came with my 54-year-old self. That may not have been the case 10 years ago. Where you're so worried about what everybody thinks.
Did something happen, Dean, that made you switch from wanting more, bringing the clients in and to focusing on, getting the more, to actually, that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what brings me joy and meaning and fulfillment.
Sure.
Was there something that happened?
Yeah, I'd say it was a necessary evil. This thing that happened to us the last 3 years in the lockdowns. Whenever you take people like myself, you took two pretty intelligent people, my wife and I, and you locked us in our homes and gave us too much time to think and start to really reevaluate all the crap and garbage going on in our lives. And that's what happened. So it was a blessing in disguise, really, where we took the time to better ourselves, to look and say there is another level to this. There is another gear for us to shift in. And watching people die around us, because we had a fair share of that here in New York, and it's starting to pick up even more so right now. You know, and I'm sorry. I don't care whatever they want to call it. I know what's really going on. I'm not an idiot, you know, and I'm sorry if that offends people out there. I'm not here to make everybody happy. Wake up. Some people out there don't have our best interest at heart. And seeing the result of that, seeing family members die, seeing friends die, right? Seeing people, acquaintances die unnecessarily, that'll shake the tree a little bit. So that for us was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. And I'm not, for the friends and family of mine that did pass, I'm not going to let that go on deaf ears. That's stuff that's, you know, I'm still here. What can I do about it? You know, there are things to do about it. And my kids ask me all the time, why don't you run for president or political office? And I say, you know why? Because I have a 13 and a 15-year-old, and these demons that are out there would destroy their lives because they don't like what I say. So when my kids are older, we'll talk about that. When my kids are out of the house, maybe we can go there, because there are ways to help. But I know for me, my way of helping is helping every single entrepreneur that I can right now. And the reason being is because it drives those powers that be, the bad demons that I'm speaking of, it drives them nuts when small business succeeds, because they can't control small business people. We're harder to control. We're rogues. We don't play the game the same way. And that's not liked too much, especially here in New York. They destroyed small business here in New York. They destroyed it. So now, as I look into 2023, our shift, I call it Operation Ground Game. That's where our shift is going. We're getting out there and we're changing lives. We're shaking hands again. We're hugging again. We're out there connecting with people. Spreading love, spreading goodness. Getting in front of as many people as I can get in front of. And letting them know, we don't have to play this game. What do you want to create? Can I help you? If I can, fantastic. And that only doesn't mean in a paid relationship. I'm going to speak where anybody's willing to listen. I'm speaking. I'm out there. I'm not shy, if you haven't noticed. And I'm also not afraid. I'll say what I have to say. And hopefully, part of this Operation Ground Game is heavily focused in New York, but it does span the globe. It's not a New York thing. But I have to do whatever I can do, and it's coming from my gut and my heart. I have to play my role in changing this trajectory of small business right now. I have to help. I'm compelled beyond belief at this point. So I'm writing more than ever. I'm speaking more than ever. I'm out there connecting with people more than ever. I'm saying what has to be said more than ever. Whatever it takes is what it's coming down to. And I know at some point it'll inspire others to maybe do a little bit more of the same. And if it does, then I did my job. I can go to sleep and feel good. I did something. And that's why when I hear what you're doing, Aveline, and when I heard that 100 episode, yes, go for it. Give it everything you got. Get out there. Everyone out there needs you right now. And collectively, 1 + 1, like 1 + 1, especially 1 + 1 + 1, as I look at Correa in this too, that doesn't equal 111. Doesn't equal 3. It's exponential. You add one person to one person, it's an exponential thing starts going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very many of us to change the trajectory of what's happening here, to change the vibration of the planet as we shift it to where it needs to be, where it wants to be. But we're allowing those crazy powers that drag that vibration down, and you could feel it. You could feel it. You ever walk in a room and you could feel that there's something wrong here, or walk into a room and you feel it's lit up? There's something really right in this room? That's what I'm talking about. People have to reconnect with energy. They have to reconnect with that vibration. They have to believe that we are all made out of energy. And if they don't get taught that in public school, they better learn it somewhere.
Yep.
Because that dumbing down effect is destroying us at this point. And hopefully, if one person hears this today and goes out and says, what does he mean when he says, change my vibration, go out there and raise my vibration? Look into it, study it, call me. I'm happy to tell you, but there are 9,000 videos on YouTube that talk about that. Look it up, start to understand that we're meant for so much more. We're being suppressed. Do you want that? Is that okay with you? It's not okay with me. Is it okay with you? If it is, fine, that's great. But I better not hear you complain about it. Right? Don't complain if you're okay with it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Am I hitting all of those?
You are. You're hitting all the right buttons, and
Good.
You're such a change agent, Dean. And I just want to point out, for those that are listening to this, most of our listeners are business owners.
Right.
There might be some that are still in the system or have system thinking. And what I mean by that is, even as a business owner, they are still trapped into potentially habits and ways of working from the corporate system, from their education system. And like you said, it's hard. I worked at McDonald's for 6 years. I became a manager. And in that training, I always had to be busy. I always had to be doing something. I couldn't stand there if there was nothing to do. No, there's always something to do. You should be cleaning, sweeping, whatever it is. And it's taken me years to unlearn that.
Crazy.
And I found myself, even in my business, feeling that I've still got to do something, do. And it was a number of coaches and people around me that went, no, you've got to stop. So all of us, so anyone listening to this, we all have remnants of the system programming that are holding us back to being these magical beings that can create whatever we want. And that might sound really wishy-washy, but no, it's absolutely true. And what you've spoken about, Dean, really also highlights the power of the small business owner, the entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because we have the power to make the changes in our communities and in our societies, because we have the ability to choose what we do with our time. We're not
Yes.
governed by an employer saying, you need to clock on, you need to be here at this time, this is what you got to do with your day. We actually have the choice. And we are the ones that generate so much of our country's GDP. You look at the statistics of that, it's a lot more than
Right.
corporates.
Right.
And we actually serve more of the community. So imagine if more small business owners actually listened and took control of their own sovereignty, their own inner power to say, actually, I'm going to do something I'm going to shift. They don't have to throw all their products out. It could just be that they've got to make some subtle changes around their focus and what
Yes.
makes life better for them and for their communities. There's so much that we can do. So much.
I'm sitting here smiling. I'm loving every minute of that. You are so spot on. And you said a couple of really big words, our sovereignty. Yes, that is so critically important right now. I think humanity has lost sight of what that means. Look up that word in the dictionary, folks. Get re-familiar. Matter of fact, find a dictionary from maybe 100 years ago and look it up there, because they probably changed the definition to fit their needs now. Be careful of that. A lot of our books have been changed and altered. When you think about the school system and what they've done, they've created us through the public school system to become what they needed from us, which was factory workers back in the day. Now, I was smiling when you said McDonald's and all the unlearning and the things that were going on now. McDonald's is one of the big companies out here that was pushing for raising the minimum wage, which they know very clearly that really hurts the small business owner more. The big companies can afford it, no problem. But that small business owner that can now only hire one person instead of two, because you're telling us we have to pay this much more for this level of service, changes trajectory, only to find out that McDonald's is now automating and going completely workerless. So this is why they're able to go out there and say, yeah, this is what you should be doing. The rules are for thee and not for me. That's the way they play the game. And yes, the entrepreneurs, we are the big player on the block. We've been made to think that we are the weakling in the playground. We are not. And that's the problem. We've been so brainwashed to think that we don't matter as much as these big corporate entities. Baloney. Baloney. There's so few of them and so many of us. We have to think differently. We have to rewire everything and really come to grips once again, with our own sovereignty. And it comes back to, what's your most precious asset? As you said, your time. What do you want to spend your time doing? You want to work on that assembly line in McDonald's? Go ahead, because they're going to outsource you. They already did it in one location in Texas. They already started piloting it. So I find, it cracks me up with these hypocrites. They're out there saying, this is what you should do, right? Raise that minimum wage, And I say, I'm not against paying people a fair wage for what they're, for what they're worth, the value they bring. I have no problem with that. But as an entrepreneur also, I also realize that there are ways that I can add value to my team members that maybe isn't wages. Can I make their life better? Let me give you a case in point. One of my guys comes to me a couple of days ago and says, look, he has his daughter coming over for the weekend, this weekend coming. And he says, look, I really would like to spend time with her. I'd like to take her to an amusement park. Is there any way I can put in a couple of hours extra today and maybe take next Friday? Not absolutely. Of course. Don't worry about it. Go do it. You know what I mean? Because for me, it's family first. If I don't create that pathway for him to do that, what is he thinking? He's looking at me saying, this guy really doesn't care. But that's the furthest thing from the truth, because I do care. Because I know it breaks my heart when I see friends and relatives come to me and say, well, I can't go do that because I can't get off that day. Really? Or I took one too many sick days. I can't take this sick day off with my kid who needs me home, who isn't old enough to stay home by themselves, but I can't take a sick day to be with them. Are you serious? Quit. I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, you've got to really check your priorities. If that's what you're going to be held to, then you have to really look at and say, is that where I really want to be? What's it worth to you to work with somebody who maybe thinks a little more highly of you, respects you a little bit more, wants to help you create the life that they're creating for themselves? I would never ask somebody to do something like that. No, you can't take off. That's no way. Now, are there exceptions to that? Absolutely. If it's something that we had planned, a huge event, and we needed all hands on deck, yeah, maybe we'll talk about that. If they knew about that event months in advance, could you have done something on a different day with your child? Maybe I can help facilitate that for you. We'll see. Can I help you? But if push came to shove and it was like a child being sick, go take care of your child. I'll figure out how to handle things here. So it's a lot of entrepreneurs get that. A lot of small business owners get that because we're very connected to the people we work with. They become like family. You love and care for them. You want them to win. You want them to succeed. You're not trying to hurt them. Big corporate America a lot of times loses sight of that. They lose sight of, you're just a number. And I hate to say it, I came from there. I know. I came from there. And no matter how much revenue I generated for the companies I worked for, I was still a number. It didn't matter. I remember working for one company one time where the team that worked for me had to be 98% billable. And if they weren't, I had to release them. I had to let them go. Talking, I had a team of shooters that were the best in the business. And they were telling me, if they're not 98% billable, you need to fire them. So if they're 95% billable, you're telling me to fire the guy? I couldn't find that talent anywhere. And you're telling me to fire this guy. You're out of your mind. The guy's getting married this month. You're telling me to fire the guy because he's got to take some time off to get married? This is what I was dealing with in big corporate America before I left. And I was like, no. It doesn't fit me. I can't do it. I look at that and I'm like, it bothers me where it makes me angered. And I worked very hard and long to control my anger. Being from New York, we're very passionate. We could be a little hot-tempered. And I worked very hard to control that. And I'm proud that I'm able to say that now. Really, the only people who bring that anger out in me is my children when they do stupid stuff to make me angry. But we laugh about it afterward. But yeah, I mean, we really do. As humanity, we have to check ourselves. It's time for a gut check. It's time to look within before we are so accepting of without. Look within and say, what has to happen here? What needs to change? What am I okay with? What am I not okay with? What I'm not okay with is wasting my time. Seeing friends who are my age die. I just got another message from a brother of mine that said another childhood friend is in the hospital. She's not going to come out. Serious? She's my age. 6 months younger than me. I look at that and that doesn't put things in perspective. If that doesn't make people just a little bit like, come on, people. What does it take? So again, this is the stimulus for me. That's what lights the fire and the passion for me. When I step back and I think about things like that, and I watch a certain level of our society not care, and I watch another level of our society being totally affected by it and destroyed by it, that makes me nuts. But I'm one guy, but I know one guy can make a big dent, and everything I do causes those ripples, right? So I'm throwing lots of stones out there, see how many ripples I can create. And it seems I'm not the only one doing it. It looks like you two are as well. So I'm grateful for that. That's awesome.
Good. I am too. So that's a great segue to my next question for you, Dean. What's the future look like that you're trying to help create?
Oh, it's so much better than where we are today. I look at humanity's going through a huge awakening. It's a gut check time. Humanity's starting to see through this veil that's been put in front of our eyes for many, many years, especially here in America. We've been living a very fat, lazy life. We've allowed the fast food culture, the television culture, to put us to sleep and put us in this space where we feel like we don't have to do anything for ourselves anymore. Let's just go do what they're doing, those reality stars. Everybody does everything for them. I want to be that. Really? Really? That's what you want to be? Listen to that person speak. That's who you want to become? That's your aspiration? That person's a moron. That's what you're shooting for? Wow, I had hoped you'd wish for a lot more than that. But if that's what you want, okay, good luck. Knock yourself out. But as this veil begins to lift, this transition that we're going to go through right now is going to need a lot of coaching. So I see the biggest shift and the biggest change that's going to happen is we're going to see a lot more dynamic coaches that are going to help really change the trajectory of this planet. Because we're not only speaking about being an entrepreneur and how do you make an extra $10,000 in your business this week. We're talking about so much more than that. And it really does intersect with lifestyle and intersect with love and compassion. And whether people like that or not, I don't care. It's happening and it's coming, folks. Whether you like it or you don't. That's like saying AI isn't going to happen. Are you kidding me? AI is here. It's been here for years. Whatever technology we're seeing today, the powers that be had it 50 years ago. And they've been using it on you all this time and you just didn't know. Now you're starting to see it exists. Okay, well, how do you make it work for good and not for evil? How do you put it to good use and not bad use? Right? So these next couple of years for me are going to be hugely pivotal. Unless they take me out first. And I say that with all due respect. But I've got a lot to do these next couple of years. And I'm going to be very vocal about how I go about doing that. But I do know I'm going to try and train as many coaches as I can. A lot of people would say, well, why would you want to create competitors? They're not competitors. We're out to help humanity right now. They need us. You know, I share everything. I'm very transparent. I share everything. I don't care. If somebody's meant to work with me, they will work with me. If they're not meant to work with me, they'll work with someone else. You know, wonderful. Just work with somebody who's moving you in the right direction towards figuring out who you are and how you need to show up for this planet right now. So the coaching side of the business is going to explode. We are, much like you, Aveline, we're creating new products. We're approaching it differently. Every year at this time, I'm releasing old products and recreating. You know, I'm looking at where things are going, not where they've been. So there's a lot, especially in the digital marketing side of things, I really don't care about anymore. I really don't. I've never resonated with spreading propaganda. But a lot of digital marketing is all about doing exactly that. And it runs so counter to everything I stand for. And, you know, so for me, the kind of marketing we continue to do is going to be extremely authentic. It's going to be extremely wrapped around truth. And that's going to sit very well with certain clients. And many, they won't be clients. Let them go work with those other folks. I really don't care. But I know from my standpoint, it's about creating people who really want to help others right now. I'll give them the tools. I'll help them build the skills. You know, go get them. I'll coach you through it. Make it happen. You know, because I know that entrepreneurs, they're beat down right now. A lot of them they're at wit's end. They're beat down. And I see them becoming suicidal. I see them becoming a little too quick to just throw it all away. I see their home relationships going down the hill because they're just The business isn't happening the way they thought it should happen, and that affects their personal life and their relationships with their kids and their wife and their husband and their family and whatever. I can't sit by. It drives me nuts. So this year's going to be very much about educating. It's going to be that ground game is going to be like a politician gets out there and hits the streets. I'm going to do the same, except I won't be lying. Politicians that listen to this podcast, I'm speaking to you. I won't be lying like you've been doing. I say it as it is, and some are going to love me for it. Some of you are going to hate me for it. And I know there's that cognitive dissonance that runs throughout a lot of people right now that just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the truth. And it sucks because you know what? At some point, whether you hear it or not, it's going to come around like a boomerang and slap you in the back of the head. So whether you hear it from me or you hear it from that boomerang that's going to hurt a lot more, you might want to consider what we're talking about here. So I'm encouraging you, Aveline. I'm encouraging you, Corey, to get out there. Keep doing what you're doing. People need you, especially Americans. Help wake us up. Because we all know America influences the world a lot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We do. And if we're going to influence them with 12 moons around the earth, you're doomed. Your fellow friends in your area, you're doomed. We can't allow that. The question is, what can we do? And and more so, what are we willing to do to change that? So
that's a beautiful question. I'm just so moved by and grateful for everything that you're saying. The passion, the commitment, and the drive that you've got is exactly what's needed to help inspire and motivate and wake people up, but also give them the fuel to then go, hey, what can I do? And that's why we've connected. It's why you're here. We're aligned. We're 100% aligned.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I absolutely love that. Now, I've got a question I ask all my guests, and that is, what does being 6-star mean to you?
Oh, it means everything we just talked about. It's a different level ball game. And it's a that most people don't see because they're not on the same field. They're on the wrong field. They're in the field of the old systems, the old way of being that just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't serve us. So that 6th level player is about raising our game and peeking above the veil, moving the veil out, or just throwing it out completely. Rip it out of your way. Get it out of your face and look. It's about connecting with people on a different level. It's about realizing that this whole thing that we're playing right now is way bigger than any one of us. And one of our core values in online marketing muscle, one of my companies, is about success. It revolves around success, and we call it win cubed. And it's win to that third power. It's not only we have to win, but our clients have to win and their clients have to win. And if we're not creating an environment that fosters that, we lose. That win cubed is what puts us on that next level playing field, right? Because it takes into consideration a lot more than how much money did you make? How many leads did I get? Right? I don't care how many leads I get. I want the right leads. Give me one right lead and I'm happy. I don't need 5,000 garbage leads. I need the right lead. And when you change how you show up, and this is that 6-star, you got to start looking at your vibration you're putting out there. How are you showing up? When you alter that to reflect that vibration, that frequency that you want to be, that you want to connect with others on that frequency, those people start showing up around you. And then all of a sudden, marketing becomes easy. Sales become easy. It's an afterthought. I don't think about hard selling anybody. I don't have to. I attract it, right? Because of the vibration I'm bringing, that frequency I put out there. Now, I know most traditional marketers will think I'm freaking crazy. I don't care. I really don't care what they think because I know I'm on the right path. How do I know? Look who I'm attracting. Look at this conversation, right? You don't attract each other on a conversation like this if you're not vibrating at a certain frequency. This is 6th level. And it's going to become an attractive level to others. And they're going to be looking at, how did you get there? I want that. I'm so sick and tired of this. How do I get? It's about doing that. I was writing about it a decade ago in the mind stretch. It's about stretching our mind. We can only grow to the level we grow. Our businesses won't grow any more than we do. That's why coaching always came back to personal. If I can't grow that owner, if I can't grow their way of thinking, that business will never grow, at least not in a sustainable way. They might see a short-term burst, but will they see long-term growth if they're not vibrating at a different level? Either that or you're going to attract the dregs you really don't want to work with, the people that make you miserable, that make you want to go, just go throw your computer out the window, and I've had my share of those clients. I don't anymore. I'm very quick to release. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. And, if it hurts somebody's feelings, my apologies. However, bring your low vibration somewhere else, please. And I don't mean that in a condescending way like I'm something special. I'm just like anyone else. I'm working hard to raise my vibration. Please don't drag me down. Please don't hinder my progress. I'm working very hard, as we all need to. And it's an everyday battle. It's an everyday fight. There's so much that we're surrounded with that brings us down, that drags us down. Those old patterns that just want to suck us back in. It's too easy. So surround ourselves with the best people we could find. Vibrate at the best frequency we can. Humanity, the frequency's starting to climb again this year. Our frequency, our vibration dropped a lot in these last 3 years. And there are actually number scales that can be applied to that. And there are some people out there that have done that. And we saw that vibration of humanity tank into a state of fear. If we're vibrating at the state of fear, think about what you're attracting. If like attracts like, right? If there's anything to the law of attraction, right? What are you attracting if you're afraid? Think about it, right? What are you attracting if you're in love? You're going to attract more love, a very high vibration, a high frequency. So it all depends on what we bring to the game. And that's what I'm looking to bring to this next level. And I'm looking to surround myself with everybody and anybody who's also on a path there. They don't have to be there yet. We're all on a journey. It takes time. We're all working on it. But the more of these kind of conversations we could stay in, the more dialogue, the chance of it happening. Right? And like I said before, it is an exponential thing. It's not just 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. Right? It's exponential. Right? So it doesn't take very many of us moving to 6 star to bring everybody else up and bring up the overall vibration. Right? And that's what people study this stuff. People look into it. I can't implore you enough. Look into your vibration, your frequency, the energy you're bringing out there. Think about it. Talk to people. Things you might have thought were woo-woo and years ago. Let that programming go. There's a reason why people wanted you to think it was woo-woo and crazy. They don't want you to have it. They don't want you to recognize that, because then you become powerful. And if you step into your power, you might create something that doesn't need them. Wow. Think about what I just said. That was a bomb I dropped on you. Right? And then all of a sudden, the world starts to change. People start to vote differently. We start to connect on a more heart level than maybe we have been in the last couple of years. Maybe we be a level we haven't been in 100 years. Right? So, unfortunately or fortunately, it's a little bit of both. The world is going through what it's going through right now. We could look at it and say, woe is us, play the victim mentality over again. I'll play the victim card once again. No. Let go of that card, burn it. What are we going to do about this? So I say it to everybody listening. I say it to you two with me here today. What can I do to help? How can I be of service? Let's raise our vibration together. Let's bring everybody else up. I'm game. Are you two game?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's why we're
Pretty
here.
cool, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Exactly. So now we've got to use our marketing talents to get this in people's ears. Yeah. Let them see this. Let them hear this. Not once. I'm going to tell people, watch it 10 times. Watch it now. Watch it again 30 days from now. You'll get something completely different. Because after 30 days of growing, it's like reading a book for a second time, a third time, a 10th time. You ever have a book like that you've read again and you got something totally different from it? That's this level of conversation where you can get a completely different thing from it every time you hear it. Powerful. I love this. So I look at this and I say, it's up to us to really, we're going to jolt humanity right now in a positive way. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful, to be able to have that wherewithal and that passion and that desire that I believe is at the right moment in humanity to help. And I encourage everybody and anybody hearing this to join us. You're not sure what to do? Ask.
Yeah.
You
said some really, everything you've said has just resonated so strongly because, look, we're here for a reason. We're on the same page. We've attracted each other. I speak about vibration to my clients, from a marketing perspective. Excellent. And I love what you said about let's use our marketing prowess to get this out there, to get people listening. And I want to plant the seed in people's minds who are listening to this, who go, well, what do I have to bring? What do I do? Right. What have I got that can help, create this new humanity that you're talking about to get out of the system, to be 6-star? Well, you've just got your own, you've got yourself. Every person has their own genius. Yes. And it just starts with getting back in touch with who you are. Own who you are, love who you are, and from that place, you can create movement, connection, vibration, and just doing and bringing yourself to every moment, every interaction, every conversation, client work, what you do in your day, your kids, your partner, everything. That's where it starts. It starts with you going inside, tapping into who you are and feeling and being and owning who you are with joy and love.
So beautifully said. Absolutely. I completely resonated with that. It is so spot on. And I really do hope that everybody listening will really pay attention to those words, because that's where it's about. That's what it's about. That's where it is. That's where the game is today. And if we're gonna survive and thrive in what's going on right now, we have to be in that space. That's where we need to show up from.
Yeah.
So it's funny how things show up in your world and in your life, and how they unfold in front of you, and how this podcast almost fell in your lap. And I know you had a partner before, and how that kind of unraveled a little bit, but you kept it going for a reason. Right? I think your foresight allowed that. You knew something. There was something in here that you knew. You had to continue the path.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the visionary that it's going to take. It starts with people seeing. We have to have that gift of sight, and we all have it, folks. It's just whether or not you've allowed your ability to go dormant. Right? Learn to tap it again. Not sure how? Call one of us. Maybe we could help.
Yeah.
Right? Reach out to somebody you know who does understand this. Because that's where it starts. To think that you're not powerful enough, that you can't do anything, you're shortchanging yourself, you're fooling yourself, you're also being stingy. That's a New Yorkism that I'll use on you. You're being stingy. Right? You're holding back, you're holding out. So you're being stingy? Are you being lazy? What is it? Because we all have the same gift. We all have the same everything. It's our choice on what we do with those gifts. Right? We were all given free will. What are you doing with yours? And sometimes it stings a little bit when somebody calls you stingy or says you're being lazy. Remember, I'm from New York. I'm going to call it as it is. I know most times I've logged well over 10,000 hours. It's probably closer to 20,000 hours coaching at this point, coaching small business owners in my life. I've been around the block. I've talked to the best of the best. I've learned from them as much as they've learned from me. And I've called many of them out for being lazy and for being stingy. When you say you want this, but you're too lazy to go do what it takes to go get it, well, then what do you want from me? Nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to hand it to you anymore. It's not the way the world is being wired at this point. Right? If you allow yourself to play the victim card and say, oh, I can't have, or I can't do, or I can't, then you know what? You won't. You won't have it. You struggle, you suffer. It's your choice. Right? Go back, listen to all 100 and something podcast episodes now. You've had some doozies. I heard a couple of them with some people. They know their stuff. Go listen to it. Right? You can't tell me you can't scrap one television show tonight, one hourly sitcom. Go listen to one of these a night for the next 7 nights. I challenge all of you to go do that. Pick 7 of them. Do one a night, every night for 7 nights. And you tell me, you get back to me and you tell me you're not changed. That something's not different about you. That your vibration hasn't lifted just a little bit. Because that's what it takes. I had a prospect try and call me out yesterday about the phrase massive action. And I had to hand it to him. Don't come to me if you don't want to do what it's going to take and you're afraid to take massive action. I can't help you. But I want to be this. I want to do this. And well, great. I'm with you. But I have to know that you're willing to do whatever it takes. If you're truly not serious, don't waste my time. Allow me the privilege of giving my time to that person who truly is willing to do it. Make a difference on this planet. Don't be so stingy that you're going to eat up my time and take it away from them who really deserve it. Is that how you want to be known? Is that what you want to create for this planet? Take the challenge on. Seriously. Feel free. Where do you post this? Does this get posted online, like on YouTube or something like that?
Yep.
Go on YouTube and leave a comment. Leave a comment. Tell us what episodes you watched. Tell us what points you got out of it. What change that you learned from it that you're willing to take on. Because guaranteed, if you come back and tell me you learned nothing, I'm going to bring my New York out on you on that one. So I'm sorry, folks. You have to be willing to do your part. And you'll find that good, loving people like us will rally around you to help co-create that. But don't expect us to rally around you if you're not stepping up and doing whatever it takes. So I threw the gauntlet out there. Let's see if any of these folks take us up on it. And that goes for you folks, whether you know me or you don't. If you know me, you better take me up on it. If you don't know me, go for it. Try it. Because this is what it takes to make real, true, sustainable change. This is what it takes to be able to see that next playing field, the next level. If you don't like where you are right now, or you're bored with it, take this on. Choose something different. And it is your choice, right? I've made the choice. Seems like Corey and Aveline have too. What are you willing to do? Right? So I relinquish on that note. Hope hope I don't shock the system too bad. But you know what? I think we need some jolts out there. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, folks.
I'm not sorry either, Dean.
Right.
And I love, yep, what a great way to sort of, bring this to a close, really. Throwing the gauntlet out there, and let's just see what happens. Let's see what ripples the pebble drop makes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or firecrackers or whatever, goes on in the background. Corey,
Thanks for asking
I've been
me.
watching you.
Thanks for asking me.
That's all right. You've been laughing, crying, nodding, all this the whole way. I want to give you the opportunity to
first
ask.
podcast I haven't been able to ask any single question. So first of all, 3 things I want to comment on, or
Sure.
3 comments. 1, you absolutely have blown my mind today. We've found a hilarious guest speaker for the upcoming Sixter community. Thanks for accepting the invite, Dean.
Sure, no problem.
Second, still can't believe that's why I was shaking my head from time to time that you're really New Yorker, because you are so damn conscious about what you do, what your purpose is. I know a couple of, but never have seen somebody like you. Yeah. I always say New Yorkers have a kind of a predisposition. It's the thing of giving attention, 100% attention to something is impossible.
Right.
So the people I've been coming across is they were talking to me, they were hammering into their keyboards, and they took phone calls at the same time as well. The third thing I wanted to mention is I have a saying on my screensaver, which is literally, to get what you never had, you need to do what you never did.
Oh, yes.
Because everything else is insanity. Expecting different outcome, sticking to the mindset, to the same mindset and the same habits, it's not going to bring you anywhere.
Exactly.
That's it.
Perfectly appropriate for where we are today with humanity.
Yeah.
Right? And
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being our guest.
Oh,
Thanks for being
my
our
pleasure.
guest.
Thank you
Really.
so much, both of you, for having me. This was fun, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these as the future goes on. I think we have a lot to say between us.
I think we do. Yeah.
And a big audience that needs to hear it.
Yeah.
So, however I can help, folks.
Thank you, Dean.
I'm here. Okay.
Thank you for raising the vibration, setting the gauntlet out there, and creating some smack bang booms in our day, in our morning. I know for me this has been a great start to the day, and I look forward to seeing what we can co-create as we continue forward. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you both. Appreciate it very much.